United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thought you were in.
Okay, like I said, we have a lot to cover tonight. I did send out to all the board members a copy of the evaluation form, and thanks to Jess, it's a fill-in this year. You don't have to print it out. And also, Melinda's updated her goals schedule, so it kind of like it to be when we do the evaluation, I'm going to call a special meeting. No, that'll be before the thing, but we will there will be a special meeting. I'll throw out some dates. I'll get you an email. We'll have a couple of things to cover at a special meeting. Get it to me, please, so we can go over it at our next meeting by August 30th, because after that, it's Memorial Day weekend, and then this will be busy beginning of school, so. Basically, that's all I have really to cover tonight. I'll be getting an email out to you shortly on this. There's two issues we need to cover on a special meeting, but I need some input from our Steve Sidor, our attorney. Okay. The next one is approval of minutes from our June regular meeting and our special meeting of July 11.
Citizens comments.
Oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting this. Do we have any citizens? Yeah. Online. We're watching. Where'd we go? Oh, yeah, we have citizens. Okay. Any citizens' comments from our Zoom audience? No. Me. No citizens' comments. Okay. All right, next is approval of minutes from our regular meeting in June and our special meeting in July 11th. On our generator repair.
Motion to approve both.
Second. Motion to approve both second.
Okay, I have a motion. And then a second. Any discussion on the minutes?
My only comment would be on the special meeting on July 11th was that we asked Mr. Birch to go out and get additional quotes on the.
Can you speak up a little? I got a block, dear.
Yep, no problem.
It says
We
like
asked
I can't hear anywhere.
Mr. Birch to go out and get additional quotes. And I think that worked in our best interest.
Yeah, it's kind of there under action 3. Bill's discretion for lead time and other vendors.
Yep. Other than that, I'm good.
Good for discussion. Okay. Okay. Having a motion and a second, having discussion, I'll put the motion to the floor for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes. Subcommittee update. Matt, most of it's on the agenda, so just give us a short recap.
Yes, so we met the other night, I forgot the date, my gosh, the policy committee, thank you. Met the other night, we approved a bunch of policies which are in our docket this evening. And we tabled 2 and recommended several to the board, which are all here for our action tonight.
All right. All right, I'll turn it over now to Melinda for her enrollment report.
So the enrollment numbers this year are interesting. And when you look at it, it's probably the lowest that I've had in my tenure. I think there's a couple of factors going on there. One, we do have, a lot of transient, population in and out. And also the kindergarten, age of requirement changed. And so, I'm wondering if people haven't submitted waivers. All the waivers that we received, I believe you approved, right?
Yes,
Okay, so how many did we get? 4 or 5?
I think we got upward towards 8, actually.
Oh, okay, good. So we did accept them into kindergarten, so they will be moving on to kindergarten. But the number is low, significantly low. Usually we're teetering around 70 and we're at 38. Remember that we reduced a kindergarten classroom and we took that extra position and hired a special educator so that we have a full inclusion class, which we did not have at the kindergarten level. So right now, we're just watching the numbers. We do know historically, like the week before, once they start seeing the bus roll, we get a flurry of registration. So we're hoping that we'll see that come in. Right now, class sizes, I can tell you, I calculated that the other day. When you look district-wide, class sizes are in a good place. In kindergarten, we'll be at 13 students if that number holds. So that's always good because it matches the philosophy of the Board of Ed since I've been here, is that we want to keep those numbers low. But in general, the highest class size we have is going to be grade 3. They'll be at 21, but they teeter between 14 and 19 district-wide. So that's where we're at right now. The high school is down a bit. We did enroll 1 student last week, and I think there's 1 pending. And those are the numbers. So we currently, which I think is very tentative, we have 334 students at Mary Al Fisher, 263 at the middle school, 194 at the high school, 1 in our transition program for a total number of 792 students. Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Prentice.
Sure.
You said you accepted 8 waivers. What was the average birthday, you think, of that? I'm just curious because they changed it from January back all the way, rolled back to September. So, I mean, are we having a lot of September, October kids?
I mean, I
Do you-
can
do you-
speak to the average birthday. I can just say that there have been approximately 8 students that applied for waivers. Most of them passed the test that we had, and then so they'll be forwarded to kindergarten. I think we had 1 or 2 students that didn't quite pass the test. To your point, Mrs. Smith, some of that number has to do with kids that haven't been medically cleared. So there's approximately
Right.
25 kids that are really aren't on those numbers, but still need to be medically cleared by the health.
Okay.
So those will rise.
Okay.
And that's why we see it bump up probably at the end of the summer because all the medical documentation are in. So,
Okay.
well, that's good news.
Thank you.
I have a question on the transition from 8th to 9th grade,
Mhm.
with, the losses and remaining. Have we, is it kind of similar to last several years, or have we noticed any
Yeah, so we always,
differences?
we always run around 24 to 26 students.
Mhm.
We did lose that many. However, when you start to look at the numbers, we only have 4 students going to the BOAG out of grade 8. No one's going to the magnet school. So obviously there are some going to Marianapolis, 1 or 2 going to Marianapolis, and I think they're right here in the report somewhere.
Yeah, on
Um,
that last, yeah.
But the bulk of the students that currently are at Ellis,
yeah.
so.
Maybe over maybe over the medium term, not short term would be this year, maybe over the medium term, we'll start retaining more and more of those kids with our programs. that
I
we
just
have.
was hopeful, like with the pathways, to maybe see a little
Well, right.
more,
Yeah.
versus a same.
When you reached out to us this past week, because we had a recorded ad that we used last spring, so they asked if we wanted to run it again at a discount. So Danielle put that order again, in. The other part of it is that, and I haven't talked to you yet, Principal Mellon, you know, someone had mentioned, do you want to reach back out to the homeschool kids one more time? We did that last year, probably mid-year, and just to remind them of the pathway. So, I'm gonna work with Danette and sending a letter out to those families, so might be worth it. We did get some homeschool students back last year because.
Melinda, have we had any out of district show interest in our pathways program in high school?
So not yet.
Okay.
We did have someone that called from middle school and wanted to, a middle school parent from Putnam and wanted to register her child here. And I tried to explain to her that that would be up to her sending district, the district that she lives in, if they would like to pay our tuition. I gave her that number and I never heard back. So I'm assuming that didn't fly, so.
That was middle school though, not
Correct.
the high school.
That was middle school. Yeah, nothing has come through yet. You know, in relation to the next agenda item, when we went out to Putnam to talk about athletics, part of the conversation was around, you know, expanding learning opportunities for students in both districts. Is there an opportunity for Putnam kids that might want to take welding, come to Thompson, and maybe they have programming there that one of our kids could go there, and it's a swap. There's no money exchange, but a discussion is starting around how do we expand learning opportunities for the students in both districts. And it kind of laid there, but we'd like to have some subsequent meetings to just have that conversation. So we don't know where that's going to go. I think we're in a good position that we've developed some really strong pathways. And so I'm hoping more and more of our students stay here, but more students in the region start to become interested in those pathways.
Do we know if Putnam has any programs that we don't currently offer that might be of interest or?
So I haven't gotten that far into it. They did originally, when we started this whole, Kathleen and I started the discussion with Putnam, they had the CNA program and we didn't. And we thought culinary and CNA could kind of swap. Their program, wasn't strong. And we decided that we would develop our own because we had 14 students interested. So we maintained that, and this coming year, we have, I think, 11 or 12 students interested. So I think our program is viable. But I think there's a future for that conversation, and we should continue to, you know, talk about it. And we'll segue into the next item where Deb was at that meeting. So
We're already that far down.
I'll wait until Kathleen takes us there.
I was at my coach's meeting. Well, I don't know what was said already. I'll be honest.
We're just still finishing up enrollment.
Oh.
Did Deb go next? Okay,
Go
Deb,
ahead,
you're
Deb,
on.
with the political op.
So Melinda, TJ, myself met with the superintendent, principal, the athletic director, and Putnam to talk about, well, from my perspective, co-oping all the teams because we're having difficulty sustaining the numbers that we need to have our teams be able to put them out on the field. So last year for softball, Greg will attest to this. We started with 16, ended up with 11. And on many a game, we had trouble fielding the team. We need 9 to start. We've moved out on how many games. When you have that few of individuals for different sports, they know that you need them. They make excuses as far as, well, I can't come to practice today. Or they have meal appointments, whatever. They weren't coming to practice. Hopefully we get them for a game. So with that being said, Putnam had experienced basically the same kind of thing with their softball team 2 years ago. So I talked to Joe, who is the athletic director there, and talked about trying to combine to make our teams viable, not only with the numbers on the field, make them know that there's a commitment to the team, and also make sure that you have the numbers that you need to support our commitment to the league, because we're scheduled, each of us are scheduled, depending what sport it is, between 16 and 20 games, no matter what sport it is. until you make a league commitment. So that means all those other schools, if we don't have the numbers, we get to the opening of the season, we don't have the numbers, we have to say we can't support that team. Then they're all scrounging, looking around for other schools to round off that particular sport. The idea was that if we co-opt everything, that we could be more viable. I'm not so sure we got a warm fuzzy response to that. I think for those teams that are in trouble, that they have in trouble, then maybe yes. But my perspective was maybe we should just, both communities think about what you're trying to offer for the kids, get it out there. Combine everything, no matter what the number is, because there is a magic number as a co-op team. If you're the host school and you say, for instance, soccer, the number is 14. If you have that number or below, you can co-op. If you go above that number, then you can do it, but you have to say that your team is not going to be able to vie for the state tournament. Okay, so both communities would have to be aware that if we had the numbers and we combined everything, but let's say it's basketball, and we got more than enough kids, and we're pretty good because we got both teams together, both schools together, that we would not necessarily vie for the state tournament if any one school is over, if we're over that magic number for the co-op number that the CIAC sets. We don't set it. What it would do for us would give us an opportunity to have numbers where we could actually have JV programs, because neither one of us run JV programs. You don't have the ability to get these kids some kind of skill development and be able to transfer that to it and transfer it up to when they get older. And also we're putting kids in positions where they're ninth graders playing a full varsity schedule. For instance, our boys soccer team right now, we've got 17 boys. 6 of them are ninth graders. 7 of them, 8 of them are 10th graders, and they're playing a full varsity schedule. The rest of them are upperclassmen. So we're putting them, they're gonna play the games, but just physically on the field, you've got some small kids playing against some schools that have all seniors playing against them, 18 and 19 playing against them. So by doing combination of, you have a chance to have numbers where you could develop a JV level program and maybe not forever be co-oping everything, but to give yourself a few years to try to recoup. Because we know success breeds success. And if the kids are more successful, then you'll have more kids that are not playing coming out of the woodwork, hopefully, to play. We also have declining number of kids in the building. We're like, what's our number now?
194.
194. So if you think about 194, and traditionally we have between 30 and 40 kids ineligible together. So now you're trying to make these teams out of 140 kids. Now those 140 kids, you might get 1 or 2 athletes. And the biggest athletic class, last one that we had graduated last year. We have a few kids left over this year. And after that, it's pretty slim pickings as far as individually strong in any particular sport.
Deb, do you want to talk about the 3 sports that you talked about co-oping for the spring?
For the spring, we're worried about, well, I know for sure for golf, because we only have 2 golfers left. And they have 2 kids possibly. We did have 4 girls come out this year. So we had 4 boys, and for a golf team to score, you need 5. So the best girl at any one day was the 5th on the boys team. So we ran one team, a boys team, with the girls rotating who was your 5th player. So we probably pick up 2 more girls this year, but we only have 2 boys and we know what's in middle school is not playing because Neil's down there beating the bushes all the time. So he knows the kids who play golf. So my idea was I would host the golf team, pick up his 2 kids, hopefully find another kid. That leaves us the girls. Maybe we can put together a JV kind of golf program for the girls because I don't want to lose them. I want to give them the opportunity. Softball, Dave had a successful year in Putnam this year, and we talked about it. He's like hedging because he thinks he's got a core group of 3 kids that are really going to put him over the top. So I don't think he's going to want to do that. And definitely baseball, because Putnam, we've got 4 left. Putnam has, I think, 4 left or 5 left. So we know for sure that we're going to co-op with Putnam for baseball. but that's totally based on numbers. That has nothing to do with that number. Both of us are way below on those numbers.
To piggyback off of what Deb said about softball. We had 9, finished the year off the last 8 or 9 games. Started with 9, couple games, girls had to leave, so we could finish the game with 8. But it wasn't fun. I mean, I had fun with them, but one transferred. And I can honestly say probably 2 or 3 of them are not gonna come back next year. And if I did take them, all we're doing is setting another bad pattern. I couldn't really hold them accountable really to the flame on anything because they kind of had Dad, myself, and the school over the barrel.
We moved many games.
So we're gonna probably be around that 9-11 threshold, and then we're gonna be right back into the same thing. So I don't see this school sustaining at least a softball team for, I don't know, maybe a few years. You know, I don't know if there's not much picking up from the bottom because they all go somewhere else. And that'd be baseball, soccer.
Girls soccer
track.
co-op in this year.
They all go to Killingly and they all go to Ellis. And maybe someone to Marinapolis too on occasion, but.
The female pattern too, just to bring up, so in Lincoln and North Providence, we were talking 2 girls powerhouses in terms of softball. Now that's a total of just in those 2 schools alone, close to 1,800 kids. They had to go up this year because they did not have enough girls wanting to play softball. So my wife, who's health and phys ed, she's been doing research on it. You're seeing a decline in girls who want to play sports because of this. Because they're afraid their worst moment is going to be in whatever physical arena it is, whatever sport it is, it's going to be caught on this, and then it's going to be broadcast, whether on Instagram or TikTok. So you're seeing a declining role in girls just in general. I would have never thought I would see North Providence and Lincoln have to co-op softball teams.
Well,
And
that's
that's
soccer here. The strongest program we've had here is girls soccer, and I'm co-oping this year with Killingly. When you have to make a decision for the preceding season, so for fall sports, you have to make a decision by May 15th, if you're gonna have numbers or not. I brought the girls down 3 different times to see which ones were interested, and I had 6 the first time, 8 the next time, and maybe 10 altogether. They say, yeah, we're gonna play. You can't run a program with 10 kids. First of all, you don't even have enough to start the game, and then you end up with injuries. They can't last the whole game. Their fitness level is. So Jim Lackner was having trouble. Killingly, which is big school compared to us, they only had 8 kids coming back. So we both we're co-oping for the fall. Now, right now, if you look on the books right now, my registration says I have 16 kids. If I read the 16 names, Greg will know which some of those kids are the same ones that we have for softball. That will not make that commitment. They're on paper, but what will happen is they won't show up, and especially now if they know they're gonna jump on the bus and go to Killingly, that's not gonna happen. So I'm anticipating 4, maybe 5 kids actually playing soccer, and he's looking for a JV coach now because between the both of us, it looks like we're gonna have 28 kids. It looks like it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. If we have 28, we'll give those kids the opportunity to have just what we're looking for, a time or a place to develop and get some games in. But I'm not sure that that's gonna happen because I don't think the kids are gonna make that commitment.
Could I ask you a question? So if 14 is the magic number, could we, since we know we're gonna co-op and whatever, can we just say we're gonna make cuts to 13?
Can't cut when you co-op.
Oh, really?
There's no cut policy because the whole idea behind a co-op is that you're going to co-op to try to bring the sport to develop players so that you can leave when your co-op designation, like football's 2 years. Sometimes they give you a 1 year or a 2 year. So if it was a 1 year, next year, you have enough numbers to go back on your own and have your own team.
I see.
And I don't even know if I'm gonna have a JV team for basketball.
Right.
Practiced twice during the summer. I couldn't join the league and practice because the CIAC allowed me to practice 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. Okay, develop the students, athletes, and with the exception of my 4 seniors, no one else showed up. There was 16 that actually signed up at the end of the school year last year. 4 seniors showed up, and on occasions, I would get a couple stragglers here and there. And with 16, if you can't make the commitment and you allow them to do it, and I can't, you can't discipline them for anything. I mean, it's summertime, right? It's more of a developmental skill set. And to see what I had, but there was nothing there.
We met with them.
Jimbo Crabtree, who coaches Killenly, now they're a bigger school than we are. I don't even know if they're gonna have a basketball team this year. And Lyman Memorial, they're down too.
Big time.
Those are the only 2 schools in that area that didn't join a league. Now, even if Putnam who disband their summer league program, I wouldn't have been able to commit to that. Because I already been through it with the girls, right, with the softball. I wasn't gonna subject other teams showing up from distances to play us with only maybe 2 or 3 kids showing up. Now, most likely they wanna play, but they don't wanna practice and put the time in, right? But those 4 seniors I had this year, they were there every single day working hard.
And we
But I
met,
couldn't commit to a season.
and we met with those kids, the 16. And had them pick the day and the time. That
You
they
know,
number is not there. I think it's like 245 right now. So even from those numbers in the fall to what they said they had this spring is almost a 30 pupil difference.
Right, right. All right, it's not huge.
Because like,
Justin.
so I know there's a lot of athletes in our programs who also are in, especially in our middle school programs, who are also in travel programs, rec programs, all of these other regional programs. Some of them go up to, I think there's a Central Mass like football league, there's a Central Mass baseball, that they're up there and they're not, and I know that some of them try to double commit, right? They'll try to commit to our sports as well as committing to that regional team or that travel team or whatever they're at. Back when I was in school decades ago, there was, if you committed to the school, your commitment was to the school first and then to your rec teams or to your travel teams. I understand that that's probably not the way it is anymore. Do we see that because they have more opportunity on the rec teams and more opportunity on these travel teams, that that's why they're not participating? Or do we just not have the athletic ability numbers in our schools?
Well, first of all, in high school, you can't double dip. You can't play two different sports. So that's a rule. So if they were playing, say they're playing soccer in a Premier League, they can't double dip and play here. While you're in season for the sport, you can't play that sport. That's a Connecticut rule.
Okay.
Middle school, you don't have that rule. So you have a lot of kids, you do have kids that are playing AAU and baseball and stuff like that. And it's usually the kids that are a little bit more affluent because their parents have the money to put them in there and travel them around. Right, and that also the parents will think their kid's gonna be the next big baseball player in the world. Not necessarily, because they don't understand the like AAU and all of those programs are moneymakers now. At one point, when they first started, you were getting top of the line coaching and stuff. Now there's a gazillion of them out there. So our middle school program is pretty good. Right now, we've got 22 kids for cross country. We've got 21 girls for soccer, and the boys are about 18. So our middle school numbers are not being impacted. If they're doing that, it's not impacting us here.
I guess what I'm asking is, when they go to high school, are they choosing their external leagues over the school programs? Right, because of that rule in the high school.
We're off in Rhode Island anyway, like baseball, like they have an agreement, like all those AAU teams, they don't have teams, like the high school baseball season is in play, so there's none of that. If you're gonna commit to your high school baseball team, there's nothing else, everything starts in mid to late June. So I don't
Yeah,
know
well,
what
like
they're gonna-
Legion, that's the same
Like
thing.
summer,
with
yeah.
Legion.
I mean, because realistically, right, if we can put a program together here, you're getting playing time.
Mhm.
Playing time is huge when it comes to, applying for sports scholarships in college. Like, you could be mediocre player, but if you've got good playing time starting freshman year, you can be a pretty good player come senior year if you've got the athletic
Try to
ability.
tell the kids that they're going to be killing them, because they're gonna go there for the sports.
They're gonna.
They're not gonna play.
They're not getting the playing
No,
time,
you said,
right?
you're starting. They're here. They
Okay.
don't see it that way.
Kathleen, Danielle.
Do you think that maybe there needs to be a bigger discussion with the CIAC about how they're dealing with school systems with declining numbers?
Yes, I probably should not be the person that you send to that.
Because I'm thinking,
Simon and I have already had major discussions about
Yeah.
this, because the rule was put in place to help programs like us, but because they're the cheaters of the world that are out there, and not necessarily the small schools, right? They find a loophole, and so they have to make a rule for that loophole, which impacts us. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, Putnam had, 2 girls play soccer. They were gonna lose their program. Those 2 kids, I knew the 2 kids, they were good soccer players. I called Joe, I said, look, I'll pick them up. We had 16 kids. I said, we're gonna go through the CIAC, but I know because we're over that number 14, but maybe because it's gonna completely demolish your program, we went through the whole process. I get the letter, and they came to me and it said, we'll okay your co-op as long as you know that you're not going to vie for the state tournament. And what we were gonna do is we were gonna pick up his girls, and he was gonna take our 6 boys. So soccer and soccer. So neither one of us, our core group of kids, I had 16 kids at the time, and at that time, if you know the name Hannah LeClaire, she was a pretty good player at the time, I had a couple of kids that we couldn't possibly win 7 games to get in the tournament. I said, no, I'm trying to help this other town out, giving 2 kids an opportunity. We're not gonna say we're not gonna play in the state tournament. I mean, this particular group, this is their senior year. By some fluke chance, we could possibly get in. So they wouldn't let us do it unless they said, and I refused to do it. So those 2 girls ended up playing with the boys that year, and then last year they went and played with Ellis. And they rounded off with Ellis.
Yeah.
And right, we won 7 games and made state tournament. We ended up getting to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, no, that's right. I remember
Right.
that.
But is this, I mean, essentially if freshmen are going and playing with Ellis or freshmen are going and playing with Killingly or wherever, and they realize, oh, well, I'm playing with these kids, maybe I should just go start going to school with these kids. And then the next year they end up at Killingly Voag or Ellis Tech or one of those. I get it, right? I mean, if it's my kid, it's gonna be wherever you're gonna get the best for what you want. But I think if we're gonna co-op, hosting is beneficial. It could expose our pathways programs. It could expose our new track, our new campus, our new, everything that we've built here. I have no issues co-opting. I think it's more beneficial to us than just saying, hey, we've only got 2 of you, so go play for Killingly or go play for Ellis or.
Yeah, but it's usually the host school, it's usually the school that has the higher numbers. And we don't have that.
There's no rule that says that.
I'm pretty sure that, or if you look through the whole thing, it's usually the higher school, it's the one that's, I'd have to look to see if there's that tiny little caveat to the whole thing. But I never heard of the school that has 1 kid being the host for everybody else. I have 2 kids and then the other team has 10 kids and I'm gonna bust those 10 kids. Doesn't make any sense for them to bust their 10 kids here for mine, for 2 kids.
I guess that would be part of the discussion as to how we would manage that. I know Steve Rio had mentioned he was gonna reach out to CIAC about our dilemma, and get back to us, so I'll follow up with him.
I'm wondering though, if it's a more of a collective, like all these towns that are impacted, Putnam, us, if it's Lyman or Ledyard or whoever that, all the other small towns around us, if they're all feeling the same pressure for various sports. And that 14-person rule kind of messing them up too, if all of the towns that were impacted band together to approach the sea versus onesie twosie schools kind of approaching as it affects them, that then they'd understand that it's a bigger problem.
Should be a caveat,
I can definitely put it on the Ursa NASA agenda.
It's
Superintendents to discuss.
It's only gonna get worse. There's the thing, young adults aren't having children, like the enrollment issue is gonna be issues for decades.
Right.
But that's what they're doing.
And I
that was
also,
my point with Greg Simon. That's why I said I'm not a person, because he and I.
from a host perspective, if we have a facility that's gonna lay dormant and not be used because we don't have a team to fill it. And we're gonna send 2 kids where they have to wait for court time, or they've gotta wait for field time, or they gotta wait for whatever. I think that should play into the discussion as well, right? If we have a soccer field. That's, girls are practicing and then the boys are gonna practice, and we have a co-op boys team that's gonna. Wait till 6 o'clock at night to practice in Putnam. Why can't they just practice here after the girls? If we've got the field time and it's available and all that. So I think a little bit of it comes down to facility as well.
Did that with football, where practice was in one place and the games were somewhere else, right?
Done that for years. But it became a nightmare with football because of the transfer of equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
So that ended up staying at Ellis. So they split games, but because of the track issue that's going on at Ellis, all the games will be at Putnam this year for football. Because the state decided to tell Brooke they're gonna do her track over now. So, all those games will be in Putnam. She's looking for a space for her soccer teams, both soccer teams to practice and play the games.
Wow.
They don't have that space anymore.
Speaking of track, how are our track team numbers looking in general? I know it's not
Our middle
spring.
school track last spring, we had 55.
They're a big group.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Our middle school, yeah, our numbers are pretty good. Our high school team, we had 12. 3 of those kids graduated.
Okay,
I know 3 of the 8th graders for sure are playing K-State and are playing this year, so. I'm gonna say we have probably about 15 kids,
okay.
but tracks. Putnam has the same issue with their numbers for track. Track is the thing, when you're that small, even if we put both groups together, we're considered a small team. Put them both together, you have 25 kids. The kids are going for personal best.
Right.
That's what they're going for. It's not, they're not gonna win a team, on the meet as a
Right.
team. We just don't have the numbers.
So-
We wanted to make sure the board was aware that we are reaching out to Putnam and having these discussions in case you hear, and we're gonna continue to try to continue that work.
So I think if you're looking for board approval, if you will, I don't, from my perspective, I don't have any issues with it. I think it's a good discussion to have. As long as we don't see poaching happening as a result of it.
Right.
And I know that that's a long-term item to look at, but it's something, you know, we might have 2 that are playing on the team this year and then they might leave the school altogether next year. So I think that's, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just something to keep an eye out for.
And
Okay,
we are handicapped and living in the corner, we can't go north or east.
East, right.
So just, yeah,
No, but Heather raises a good point. Have the superintendents in these smaller districts kind of banded together to see if there's something.
Just
we can do.
explain how their rule is not open.
Wheeler for years is, they've co-opted, I think almost every single team they have
Really?
at one time or another.
I mean, I think if it's
They're smaller than us.
rule changes to stop the handcuffing from the CIAC to, you know, to small rural towns like us can actually have a shot. I mean, I think it's worth, you know, not only that, but maybe even getting the parents involved in these athletes that are getting cut off at the knees because they can't get the opportunities to play because we can't put a team together and co-opting doesn't make sense. So at the end, the student lose, right? The one student from us, because Putnam's got 16, the one student that wants to play from us loses.
We've opened up, they were looking for numbers for wrestling. Remember I asked her about wrestling before? We opened it up and the kids that expressed an interest said, oh, I gotta go to Putnam. I go, yeah, we don't have the facility here or the equipment, but they're willing to put you on over there. Shut it down. They didn't want to do that.
So I think Justin, you bring up a lot of good points, right? But unless you're here watching it and seeing it on a daily basis, at the end of the day, like my team, take for instance, and probably some of Deb's soccer team. I could be wrong, but I think I'm not. A lot of the kids just want to be part of their group, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
And we can go back to AAU, whether it be basketball, baseball, right? They play 2-3 games during that season in the off seasons, right? Don't practice much. When you're in that elite level, where you think you're at that elite level, because your parents want you to play at that elite level, but that doesn't necessarily equate that you're going to be elite, like David brought up. There's one thing that a lot of kids are missing, and it's the commitment to work harder at it. So if you might want to be part of a team, but Deb just hit the nail on the head. 2 kids just said it. They didn't want to make the true commitment. They wanted to try it, but didn't want to have to just go to Putnam. She was going to get the transportation. So there's no magic pill. There's no magic dust to sprinkle on the kids. The good kids are leaving.
The kids want to be a part of something. So my team last year, 21 kids, my soccer team. Of that group, 6 of them never wanted to go on the field during a game. They fake injury or do whatever they could. They could not want to go on the field. They wanted to go to practice and be a part of it and be with their friends and know that, but to actually, for me, the last game of the season, I'm turning around looking at the bench and I got 2 kids I can sub. But there's 8 of them sitting there. They want to be a part of it. But there's a commitment level, there's a work ethic level, and there's a skill level that they have to have, because it can be dangerous out there. You put kids that are not skilled and don't have any idea about the game, they just wanna be part of the group, if you throw them out there, somebody's gonna get hurt. Baseball especially, and we managed to get through this year, those kids were not baseball players, I don't know if you've been to a game, but they had a hell of a time, they loved being together, they won one game the whole season, and if you saw some of the plays that were out there, it was a little scary.
Well,
Yeah, I'm all for continuing the discussion. I don't know how my fellow board
Okay.
members feel, but. if the
we
discussion's
move
worth-
on to lunch debt.
So,
Thank you.
so we haven't had this on the agenda for a few years since COVID because we had lots of grant money that spun out of, the, health crisis and, you know, free lunch was given to all students, but this year, students did have to pay lunch, and I think, Bill Steglitz, I think we ended the year, it was at $2,700.
Right around there. Lisa is still working that number.
Okay,
It's coming down slowly, so it would be around there.
okay, and so that amount, the board, will have to approve. The board has to, absorb that cost on the board's budget. And so we want to tag that amount of money to FY '24. And we'll have a real hard number, but it's around $2,700. So Lisa is still trying to contact families and try to get that lunch debt down. But it stands at 2,700. So I just want to bring it to the board because Bill is finalizing FY '24 and we want to make sure that that expense is charged to last year.
These are people that didn't otherwise qualify or didn't apply for free and reduced lunch.
They didn't qualify for it or maybe didn't submit their paperwork.
Right.
And then we don't, that's been a board decision, like we don't provide an alternate meal. Students can get the basic meal, no à la carte items.
Yep.
But that's the charge on those debts.
Right.
What do other school systems do? To like,
So there's all sorts of things. They have had fundraisers to pay that lunch debt. They have had philanthropists actually pay for lunch debt for the district. There's been lots of external fundraising and trying to recruit funds for that. As far as lunch sharing, that's a big national issue. And so we stopped giving like the sun butter sandwich kind of meal years ago. That was pre-COVID. Because it did identify students who couldn't afford for lunch, you know, or didn't have
Right.
money to pay for their lunch. So we feed them on the basic menu and then we charge that amount. Lisa spends a great deal of time chasing down lunch money. Back in the day, I think before COVID, that number was up near $6,000-7,000 a year. It was a high number. The fact that it's only $2,700 is better. It's because more kids qualify for free and reduced lunch too.
So the people though, this 2,700, is it people that did, like, they are not of an economic status that they qualified for free lunch, therefore technically they should be able to pay for their bill.
exactly.
And I just don't understand that, like, if every other business, corporation, establishment, if you have the money and you haven't qualified and you have a bill, you need to pay it. So why don't we subscribe to the same kind of thing in that regard, you know?
So unfortunately, we do. At Mary R. Fisher, remember, we were under the CEP program, so all the elementary students had free lunch, and that number is from middle and high school. There are some families that have extenuating circumstances, and often the principal will talk to me and say, listen, this family has an ill,
Yeah, no, I
life-threatening
understand that
illness,
there's
and so
something
we
going
those-
on or
we make
whatever, but
those
otherwise-
accommodations, but yeah, so it is that those families have the ability, at least on paper, to pay for those meals, but have neglected to do so, even though letters and calls but we're never gonna not feed a student, so
Right.
that's where that,
They know that,
yeah.
that's what I mean.
So
Yeah.
what if, is there anything in the policy that, now, I don't wanna upset anybody, but like where kids, if they have a lunch bill that's unpaid.
It's against
attend-
Connecticut statute to,
It does,
if that
yeah.
is considered discipline, and that is against Connecticut statute.
You really
I
can't.
will hold the line on that every day.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, everybody
Do that
should
with
eat, everybody should have a
meals.
healthy lunch.
Right, I understand
Just
that.
next
I'm
to
more
you.
restricted.
How many students is this $2,700 for?
That I don't know. Do you, Bill?
So
I can find that
I
out.
was doing a little math,
Mhm.
my handy dandy calculator. If it's about $3 a lunch,
$325 for middle school, and high school, but yeah,
about $3 a lunch,
it's 900.
180 days a year. You're looking at 5 kids. If it's the
Right.
same kids that are abusing it all year long, it'd be 5 kids every day. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think I recently saw the list. Obviously, it's a lot more than
Right,
that.
right, but it,
Yeah.
that's averaging 5 kids every day. It's not a lot of kids.
Right.
So, but yes, obviously, it's probably a couple dozen kids missing certain days.
I have a card link.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we do too.
Yes, Justin.
Melinda, while you're looking at that number, I'd like to know if it's school specific as well. Is it elementary school specific? Is it middle school specific? Or is it high school
It
specific?
would have, for this past year, Justin, it would have been middle or high. So, because Marriott Fisher was.
Right. So was it middle or was it high school? And was it high school just being like, oh, hey, I can get food and I don't have to pay for it. My parents don't know the wiser.
We did a good job of communicating to families that unfortunately this year they had to pay for lunch. I don't know if it was just habit because for the last 3 years it was covered by grants, but, and the reality is going into next year, which we'll
Right.
talk about in a minute, is that now Marriott Fisher, also those students, if they don't qualify, will have to, pay for.
So feasibly, this could be $1,300 to $1,500 more next year.
It could be, yes.
It could be.
More than
Or it could be even go
Even
back to
higher.
the
They
6
have some
that it used
Right,
to
it
be.
used
Right,
to
that's what
could be
I'm-
10,
Yeah.
your food's gone up since then and. And I know we're doing everything we can from a grant perspective, we're doing everything we can from a looking for funding
Yep.
perspective. I can see this number jumping this year with us, with the next agenda item, so.
Well, just the fact you're adding more kids into the mix.
Right.
Correct,
In the one of the largest schools in our system,
yes.
right, yeah.
Yes.
So if you want, we can roll into that discussion around the adjustments that have to be made for the meal program. Lisa did find out, so the federal government sets a window of what you can charge for, or what you have to charge for school lunch. And our elementary were paying $2.90 a lunch, which quite frankly, I didn't even want to touch, right? Because now people have to pay for their lunch meal. However, the lowest threshold for elementary is $3. So she has to bring the cost of the meal for elementary students from $2.90 to $3. The same holds true for the middle school and the high school, where we were paying $3.25, but the lower amount in that range is actually $3.35. So in both cases, we have to raise the cost of the meals to 10 cents, up 10 cents. So it needs board approval. However, there is a federal mandate that says that's the lowest amount you can charge for those meals. In addition, she did some math around the breakfast program, and based on the reimbursement rate, she feels, and she's done this for many years now, probably since the second year that I've been here, she has been able to offer the free breakfast meal. And would like to propose that again to the board. So that's pre-K to 12. Anybody that's here for breakfast time can receive a free breakfast. So those two are the new adjustments that I proposed before you for approval. And she has taken advantage of any grants we got denied to this summer for, a snack program to bring in fruits and vegetables for the elementary. We missed it by a certain percentage of poverty, by 1 or 2%. So she is constantly looking for grant money, and I think Bill can back me up on that back there. With the amount of grant applications she's put in and money that she's been receiving from the federal and state. This year though, and if you were following the free lunch thing through the legislative process, what they ended up agreeing on is that if a student qualifies for a reduced meal, which used to be like around 40 cents a meal, those can also be free. So that's where the grant money's coming from this year, and that's coming from the state, not the federal government.
But that takes number keeping and bookkeeping and effort on our part to make sure that we're accounting for those kids. The paperwork is in line for those kids, and somebody is actually putting that in.
Oh, yeah, that's what the director does a lot of, is managing all those numbers. And making sure those are submitted for appropriate reimbursement.
Do we know what our annual lunch budget is? I apologize, I should have that number in front of me.
Annual lunch budget, Bill?
You know, I apologize, I didn't prepare the cafeteria numbers for this meeting because I was focused on trying to give you good numbers for.
But in generalities,
Pat?
450.
450, 500K?
I don't know. Off the top of my head.
we can get it for you though.
Yeah, I can definitely.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, just the quick math on it puts it right around, $3 a meal, 792 kids, 180 days puts us right around, I don't know, 400K, give or take.
I was gonna say that. But then, of course, there's the expense side of things.
Right.
And I can remember a time when we were in the hole 175,000 on the lunch side. Yeah, we're not in that we're not in that situation.
Well, at the rate their credit card gets charged when my daughter's at school, I would hope.
The
Right.
BOE meet, are you looking for a motion for the 2,700? Is that what we're?
It's.
No, we
it's
have it under new business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gonna vote under that, under there. I'm gonna move on to administrator reports.
We only have a couple administrators here because many of them are on vacation today.
We'll start with Heather. Busy, you're getting,
Busy as usual. Believe it or not, in the last month, we did have 116 tickets. So we're keeping very busy. We're getting ready we have all the fifth grade new Chromebooks in. So we're getting ready. Those are all set and ready to go. We just have to collect their old ones in the first couple weeks of school. We also ordered new touchscreen devices for first grade. So they'll be getting new devices that will last them up until fourth grade. Those have not come in yet, but we anticipate those anytime. And we're ready to deploy new Dell laptops to the freshmen on the first day of school also. All of the state reports due over the summer have been submitted, completed. The New Year in Power School, this is the first time that we've done the roll up. Everything went pretty smoothly. And I'm assisting the high school with their Tiger Block periods, and there's a plugin, the Adaptive Scheduler, which is kind of like another scheduling program within the scheduling program, because the students are going to move in and out of those periods so often. So that I help set that up with high school. I guess that's what I miss. And I'm still working on creating like artificial intelligence recommendations for the district and just kind of a website for teachers and students to hit as far as resources and best practices.
Heather, you want to talk about the grant you got recently around what you were doing with the auditorium?
Yeah, so that was the Pegpedia grant. I don't know if that came in yet. Probably not, because it's late August, but we're able to upgrade a lot of, purchase new microphones, additional microphones, for the plays, because I think we only had 8, I think we'll have 16 now for all the actors and actresses to wear. And then just some basic behind the scenes upgrades that Bryce had wanted to do. So we're gonna be doing that. And I was also able to squeeze in some extra Chromebooks with that grant as well. And we did get the E-rate grant, so we'll be replacing 20 access points in the elementary school.
That was with E-rate, correct?
Yes, that
Yeah.
would be great. Yep.
With that technology grant, is there any way to get, one of the things that my teams have talked to me about, obviously, we're trying to really, curb vaping, but the two hot spots, one of them is the auditorium. Vape detectors.
Vape detectors in the auditorium.
Yeah,
I could look into that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, being such a large room, how it would work.
yeah, it's just the bathrooms.
Oh, the bathroom.
Just the bathroom.
Kathleen, or is there anything system wise, whether it's computer backups or anything that we need to just be looking at? Upgrade wise or replacement wise? Budget season's gonna be starting at some point.
Or, say that again. sorry.
For like any system upgrades, battery backups, emergency backups for data or any of that, there.
Yeah, I do have to order a new battery backup, because the generator is failing or failed. And then as far as the switches, I've decided to forgo like all of the network switches in the closets. I decided to not do that this year. I'll probably focus more on that next year. Because they are about 5 years old.
Okay.
So it is good practice to cycle those through every few years. And again, knock on wood, they've been okay. And we do have enough, because we're so much on wireless now, so if the switch does go down, we could probably, we have plenty of backup ports in the closets. And as far as servers, we're okay with that this year. I believe 2 years ago, we just replaced the virtual machine. And then what else? The only thing really would be software upgrades to one of our servers, because it's running Windows Server 2012. So we need to bring that up to at least 2016. That's only a couple $1,000 that I do have in my budget.
Okay.
And I know whenever you upgrade anything, you're always keeping the town in mind, so that they can jump on anything we upgrade.
Yeah. We do share some of our older equipment, the town,
Okay.
as we make improvements up here.
Are we,
Deb,
we
do you
sharing-
have anything
Sorry.
further to add? Oh, we have a question. I'm
Uh,
sorry.
threat vulnerability?
Yeah, so right now we have Carbon Black for our antivirus. And we have Barracuda endpoint detection or Barracuda firewall. And the town, we share that with the town as well. So we cover them. I know that Carbon Black is going to be end of life here pretty soon. So we're looking into either going over to Semantic or CrowdStrike.
And then I know Melinda and I had a conversation recently about curbing device use in middle school, not really middle school, but high school, and Mac blocking or ID blocking, thinking about that as we get into the new school year. Is that capabilities that we have? I don't want to know if we're doing it or not, but.
Yeah,
is that
to some extent, we definitely monitor our guest network. And it's segmented separately from all other traffic. And, as we notice more devices connecting, they're gonna slow down their own bandwidth. But,
Sounds like Spectrum.
right, if we notice, okay, the cell phone has been streaming YouTube for 2 hours, we have the capability to go in and kick them off. And that will last a few days, so we do monitor it.
And I'll be interested to see what the governor comes out with the cellular wireless smartphone policy, but.
Been waiting.
Very important that he.
It's just another thing in Hartford telling us what to do. We should be able to run our own schools.
Yeah.
But-
I don't disagree with the concept, but they don't know Thompson. It's just another mandate from.
Unfunded.
Hartford.
And they're not gonna fund it for us either. I'd be interested, I know we got creative last year when it came to hall passes and things like that, and we had the vaping in the bathroom issue. I think if we continue to have smart device use in the schools issues, I think it'd be interesting to look at map blocking or things like that, because we get crap for signal up here anyway, so as soon as we kick them off the Wi-Fi, that solves that problem.
And I talked to Heather after our policy meeting, and she and Bryce are gonna start looking into it.
Thank you.
Alright. Ready to move on now? Okay. Deb, you have anything other to add about sport?
I met with my coaches tonight, in our coaches meeting, parent player meeting for football's Wednesday night at Ellis. All the other sports are here on, this is for high school, on Thursday, and then middle school parent night is the first day of school. And we're scheduled and ready to go. Right now, we're gonna be sharing the soccer field down by the elementary with the high school boys until we get the okay to get up on the top field again, because the track's still being finalized. So they're either gonna be in the baseball outfield practicing and also coming down here to the elementary field. When the middle school starts, then they'll have to go later if we're still in the same thing we're in right now.
I have one question. So Danielle is finalizing, a sports banner fundraiser for the various fields. And she's putting together a promotion that someone could either purchase a banner for a given sport, or they could purchase a banner for every sport at a discount. And we weren't sure if we were going to have, baseball and softball to offer that as part of the package, or is it just one or the other here?
We won't have baseball,
All right, so definitely not baseball, might have softball.
maybe.
Okay,
That makes it tough.
yeah,
Maybe we should just do it per field.
Yeah, try it.
okay.
But we do have a new scoreboard
Ooh,
that has the capability, I'll have to talk to Danielle about it.
Mhm.
Can run 10 or 15-second bits.
like the lads.
Diamond Vision?
For basketball, though, right, Deb?
Oh, neat,
Yeah.
cool.
We'll see how that works.
Mr. Stiglitz.
As you all know, our revised budget of $20.6 million, we're actually in pretty good shape right now. Year-to-date spending is at 19.9 million, which is 96.5% of the total budget. At this time last year, we were just over 100% of the budget in year-to-date spending. Encumbrances as of right now are at $366,000, it's 1.8% of the budget. We ended out last year at 0.1% of the budget, so that's just a matter of, we're in the process of closing encumbrances like we do every year as this fiscal year's bills roll through. We're projecting spending right now at 20.2 million, which would bring us in at 98.3% of the budget. And once again, last year we had just over 100%. And those numbers include the entire special ed excess cost payment this year of $136,000. We do have 3 departments currently over budget. Pupil services being one of them. A lot of the factors there we've talked about repeatedly in past meetings. Our professional expenses and RBT and related spending are both over budget. Of all the meetings for Dr. Jones to not be at, it's unfortunate that this one is one, because he'd probably fall out of his chair when he heard me tell you that the above overages have been partially offset by lower than expected special education outplacement and transportation. So
First time in 45 years
the
for
next
me.
time
where-
you see him, let him know that I said that.
Yeah, you missed it, yeah.
Elementary also has a projected deficit of $67,000. That's driven primarily by higher than expected paraprofessional and substitute teacher costs. And the technology budget also has a projected deficit of $27,000 due to higher than expected and also some unbudgeted software costs. A couple other things to update you on. Cafeteria, I mentioned earlier, we're in the process of finalizing the numbers. And to reinforce Superintendent Smith's point about the unpaid lunch balances, It had come down from about, when I did this report, it was about 2,800, so it's come down a little bit to around 27. Believe it or not, it's time to start thinking about the FY 2024 audit. The Board of Finance, the selection subcommittee, selected King to return for another 3-year stint. And they have scheduled interim testing for September 4th and 5th. So I've been in touch with a lot of the directors. We're starting to get the ball rolling in terms of getting back to them on their initial requests and also pulling their selections for testing so that when they're out here on the 4th and 5th, their time is well spent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gill, you wanna tell us,
What was that?
you wanna update us on what's
Yeah,
going on?
Going into this year, right now, I'm currently looking at about $10,000 under budget, that always factors in somewhere at the end of the fiscal year for work's over. Right now, I just, completed our, campus schematics. I redid them on the CAD system. They were totally outdated, doors where they're not supposed to be, door swings not properly. And right now I'm in the process of building, what I did in corrections for all the facilities and electronic emergency plans. I'm gonna put you guys on a map. It took me a couple of years because I wanted to get my feet wet here, but, where no other school, I probably guarantee it, doesn't have anything like this. And we're gonna share it with the state police, so if in the event something happened here, and as well as FEMA, where, it's based off a 3-slide to 2-slide presentation where everything is hyperlinked, and at the end I save it as a PowerPoint show. It's just gonna be user-friendly for everybody at the school system as well as teachers, so they don't have to constantly go into the principal's office to look at their Marionaplis reunification plan. It's all gonna be embedded within this presentation and programs within it. You can add things for Danielle has, I can add hyperlink tabs on that. And at the end of the day, it's completely user-friendly for everybody. So it's gonna take a little time for me to finish that somewhere. By the time I get it online, probably by the middle of the school year.
Questions for Greg? No? Okay,
I got one.
Mr. Prentice.
Hold on.
Oh, we did have one, okay.
Are you good staffing wise?
I just hired an individual
Okay.
from Woodstock Academy. He left there a couple of years ago. He's gonna be working up in the high school. He's a great guy. He retired like 7 years ago. Yeah, at one point he was my boss. And just a great overall guy, and I think Mr. Mellon is going to really enjoy him. He's just a friendly person. He likes interacting with kids. He's done it before, and I'm in the process of going through applications for my evening shift, but I'm gonna be quite frank with you. Nobody met my criteria, except 1 or 2, and I had Amber reach out to them, and have not heard back, and Amber's emailed them, phone calls, kind of in a pinch right there, so I'll just be discussing that with my boss probably tomorrow or by the end of the week.
Yeah, we might have to repost.
Okay. Move on now, okay. All right, now, Mr. Prentice, what's going on?
Not really much to report. Shout out to the faculty and staff. Had a great end of the year, smooth ending of the school year. So they do a lot of hard work, but happy with what we accomplished. 4th grade students moving up to 5th grade. 4th grade teachers always put on a great ceremony. Parents have a great time. Teachers worked hard, but students have a fantastic time. So shout out to those folks. Interviewed for kindergarten paraprofessionals this week. We have some in the hopper. We've been pleased with what we've had. Congratulations to Sarah Langlois, the kindergarten special ed teacher. She was hired, former student of ours. Great teacher. So she's gonna do a wonderful job. Shout out to Mrs. Susie and Mrs. Fairley for the work they did in the extended school year for the elementary school. They always do a wonderful job. And then teachers working all summer long, whether it's OG or ESY. I have a lot of elementary teachers working. You're knocking it out of the park. I mean, they're getting students and parents prepared for the school year, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of the team. So we have Brooke Pinocci, new grade 1 teacher, as well as Linda Voter moving up from 3rd grade to 4th grade. Other than that, Popsicles on the Playground is coming up this Saturday. If you're available, come have some Popsicles with some incoming kindergarten students. That's what we have.
And we hired a really good guidance counselor.
Yeah, Kevin did a wonderful job. We had several interviews. He really stood out and the team really enjoyed him. He is gonna be a tremendous asset to the district. He is from the southern part of the state, Mystic or
Mystic.
he's commuting from. He's got some football coaching experience, so he may be an asset to the high school as well, but time will tell how he holds up with the elementary students, but I will say he's about 6'3" or 6'4", maybe 6'5", 380 pounds, so that's a pretty big guy for a kindergarten student. But, we're very excited to have him. So.
Yeah.
Greg, you sure not looking for another security guard then?
Yeah.
2 kids at once?
But yeah, that's about it.
Right.
Kathleen?
Kathleen?
So I think this is a good time to bring it up. I appreciate the principal's reports. I think one of the things that I'm looking for from a board member this school year is what do you have for issues? What have you solved? What do you need us to work on? Right? I think last year we found out towards the end of the school year that there was a massive para shortage in the elementary school, and that teachers were suffering because of it, students were suffering because of it. That's the kind of stuff that I think we as a board want to know sooner rather than later. At least I do, right? That's stuff that I'd like to know. Are you having behavioral issues? We go back to budget, Bill had just mentioned we got budget season to talk about. I know a couple of years we've been talking about a behavioral specialist. If we can be seeing that on our monthly reports from our administrators, then that's something more that we have come budget season to say, look, Mr. Prentice has come to us 4 months in a row with behavioral issues in the elementary school. We really need to look into this behavioral specialist. Supplies, building issues, things like that. I am assuming that they're getting addressed at your management's level through Mrs. Smith and Mr. Birch. If they're not, and it's something that needs to get bubbled up to the board level, please let us know.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think the new K para coming in at the elementary level will be a huge asset. I mean, I know a couple of you have been exposed to 23 5-year-olds in the classroom, and so you have a deep appreciation for the effort and the energy it takes. And for kindergarten teachers sharing 2 paras, you're at the mercy of what the town wants to spend on the budget. So we were in between a rock and a hard place, and Mrs. Smith had to make some difficult decisions, but I think hiring the new para, certainly at the kindergarten level, will help things quite a bit. But yeah, I appreciate that, and I will certainly share anything at the elementary level that we need help with. Thank you, I appreciate it.
And that goes for all the reports. I think some of the executive readouts are great, but we're here to solve the problems.
True, but there's a line of progression, right? So we try to solve them, but if it becomes a monetary thing or it's a social issue, then we're definitely going to push it up to the board. We haven't had those in the individual reports. And I think it's a good thing to add there, especially if we can't solve it at the basic admin level. We meet every single, the directors meet one time a week, and then the directors, principals, and I meet another time of the week. So that's where we try to problem solve. But there are things that get beyond us. That para issue was real. I know Kristen was volunteering a lot in the elementary school, and that was a real problem. The good news is, coming into this year, class sizes are down and everybody has a para. And we have a full integrated kindergarten class, which I think is really gonna help. Because we did have our share of issues with some students that needed more wraparound supports. Yeah. So it'll be interesting next year, just the whole structure of the elementary with the language-based classrooms, the integrated classrooms, and then the LL clusters. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out, but Principal Prentice is right. The elementary teachers seriously have been working all summer. They have been here, so.
Yeah, it was just an overall comment of if there are issues that. Because a lot of us are parents, we're in the system, we hear things, it would be nice to know whether it's solved or not solved, or is it just an issue that disappears altogether and we don't need to think about it or look at it.
Yeah, and some of that I try to funnel to you in the weekly reports
Yep.
too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there were issues that came to us. There were the halftime paras did not work.
We
So
know
we had to put the full-time paras back in the budget, and thank God the budget passed, because we weren't faced with that decision to cut the paras again. The vaping issue up in the high school, that was a huge
Serious.
issue.
But I don't think those ever, like, the vaping issue was never specifically on an administrative
right.
report,
You're right.
right?
We
It
should be
never,
seeing that.
I think that's
and that's
something
the kind of stuff that I'm saying should be on an
You're
administrative.
absolutely correct. That should have been brought to our attention, so we knew about it. And, but we did, it filtered to us and we did bring it up.
Maybe I'm reading between the lines, we're just saying is sometimes the reports that we're getting just feel like all cheer, no, we want to see
Right.
the serious parts of it. Yes, we appreciate all the hard work and what the good things are, but we need to know what the not good things are too. And it shouldn't be just a cheerleader report.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Justin's. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a problem up the high school, whether we can solve it or not.
Right.
But we
I
should
think
know.
we need to be made aware of it, which Melinda does in her
Yeah.
updates.
It just isn't necessarily in the
Right.
summary.
It doesn't come to
It's-
public
It's in a different
discussion.
form.
And especially,
Right.
I guess things that I'm expecting to come into the public discussion are things that might lead to policy changes. If we're gonna have a policy meeting, or if we're gonna adopt a new policy based on something that is coming up, then it should have been brought up at some point in a
Mhm.
report because of it. Vaping, for example, cell phone use.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Could I just make a comment, please? And I like the reports and it should have things included. And don't take this wrong, but I hate being read to. So if you give me this and then you just read the whole thing to me, I don't need that. I have the report. If you have something important that you wanna, clarify or bring to light, or something new comes up, that's the kind of stuff that I wanna see. But, and again, I don't mean to offend any one of the administrators, but if it's on the report, don't read it to me. I can read it myself,
Good point, Bill.
Thanks. Sorry for taking us off track, Kathleen. My apologies.
We have a retreat next week, so we will work on that.
And with that.
I'm not gonna read it.
You learned quick.
So
You're on the hot spot, Mr.
I
Mellon.
enjoy the hotspots. So far, so good. Meeting with many great staff members at the high school. The NEAS support team, we worked several hours already trying to tighten up things, including the Tiger block, and I can explain what that'll look like. The adaptive scheduler, which I think is a really important piece. Been meeting with the transition team. We are short, well, not short, but we do need to hire a Spanish teacher. That's what we're working on right now. I was telling Justin right before the meeting that I reached out to a couple candidates that seem solid and call me anytime, give my cell phone, text me back, nothing. I saw a lot of that last year, just trying to recruit teachers for vacancies. So we'll keep working on that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we get someone good for that spot. Adaptive scheduler, for those of you that don't know about it, and I'm learning about it too. Power School has a feature, which we're gonna train the teachers on, where that tiger block, a lot of that NEASC, that NEASC visit, show that we were lacking in certain areas of intervention and different things like that. So the adaptive scheduler will allow teachers a few different options. One, they can select rosters of students that need extra support. So they can pick those students. Those students are now pretty much locked into that class. They can't make changes to that. Students who are doing well in school, have good grades, can actually schedule themselves into various activities. Some are where they're gonna look at, critical thinking or different projects and things of that nature. Some are like fun activities that you want to give those kids, that are doing really well, an opportunity to sort of blow some steam off and enjoy a reward for that. So I think, it's gonna probably take a year to get things up and running so people and the staff feel smooth about how that can work. But I think just having those opportunities where a math teacher can say, I need these 8 students here, and we need to really do a little bit extra work. It's not another planning period for them. It's areas where they think their students could use that remediation. We want to cap it around 10 to 14 students per section. And then as far as remediation goes, we want to cap that number at about 10. Because once you exceed that 10, the number 10, it's really more of a larger class as opposed to individual instruction remediation. So I'm excited to do that. And for next year, I have some branding ideas that I did at my old school, but that'll require a few $1,000s. So that's something on budget. But we did a lot with graphics, really promoting, the culture that we wanted, really promoting like the tiger and what it's like to be a tiger. And I think that could sort of help with some sports too. And then one of the things I do want to do as far as sports goes, if we have good success at the middle school level, as far as numbers, then just sit down and have a conversation with those group of students, and even students that aren't playing sports now. Why aren't you playing here? Why can't we make this a powerhouse school? If we all stick together and stay here, I think, great things can happen. Facility is, exceptional, so we shouldn't be losing students. So some of the goals I have in mind.
TJ, we should talk this week because there's a couple of grants that have some shelf life, and if we can figure out how to they all have project specific goals, but if there's a way to tie those goals to what you want to do with branding,
Sure.
there might be a little bit of grant money left that you could do something with. So we should probably meet this week and I can go over those 2 grants with you.
Sure.
I just, one question. I think there might be a typo on your August 27th. The letter my daughter got said 6 p.m., but not 5:30. So I just wanted to make sure you realize that.
And I apologize, Mr. Mellon. Welcome officially, as this is your first official Board of Education meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us here in Thompson. I look forward to your work.
Any further? No. Do we have any old business we need to discuss? Right?
We haven't seen a bullying report in a bit.
I thought I sent one at the end of the year, but we
I
have those
didn't
numbers.
see one, but if we could see going forward. The number of actual reports that are coming in and what is actually being determined as bullying. Cause I think that information would be good to see.
So what happens with those bullying reports is an investigation is completed.
Right.
A report is completely vetted. And then there's a conclusion at the end of those reports, and it says whether or not a determination of bullying has been made or it has not. And so the ones that are recorded in Power School are the ones that actually say there was a determination of bullying. So, those numbers just got sent to the state, like a couple of weeks ago. So I can grab those numbers for the school year.
But is there any way where we're capturing the number of those reports that are being reported to admin, whether it's, you know,
Do you mean the total number?
like the
of
total of number of
reports?
like, let's say elementary parents that are reporting to administration that their kid is being bullied, but we haven't done the investigation yet. And then I'd like to see the number that we've determined out of those reports that was actually bullying or not. And the same at the middle school level and the same at the high school level. Is there a way to do that?
Well, there are incident reports that are developed based on a student complaint. And then at that point, if a parent puts in a bullying form that says they'd like a bullying investigation based on the incident, then the principal determines whether or not they're going to do a bullying report or whether a parent has requested it, either way. So I don't think anything prior to the reports, the investigations actually happening, are those numbers captured anywhere,
Okay,
specifically. But what I can give you is, okay, the middle school did 10 investigations this quarter and 2 of them became, classified as bullying.
okay.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
That I,
think
that
would
I
be-
can definitely.
I think that would be a perfect thing to sit in the administrator reports.
And then, going back to the surveys, is there any way to get the information from the text boxes? Because they were supposed to provide us some sort of
So,
raw data as well as the information from those comments, but we still haven't seen any of that.
well, primarily because, the middle school and the elementary did a deep dive and an analysis of that data. And they are in the process of writing their climate and culture plan, which are due to me on October 1st, so that they hit the October board meeting. So we can give you those comments in relation to how they're putting that plan together. TJ has not had a chance to
Okay.
get into the panorama data with your leadership team, but you do have to develop, and we were going to talk about that next week, you do have to develop a climate and culture plan based on not only the comments, but the data overall from that survey. So we can send that out with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Just flipping back, administrator reports, there were 2 administrators that weren't here today, or 2 reports that weren't given today that I'd like some information on. One is the exit interviews that should have come from the 5, I believe, that exited the end of last year. Michelle was supposed to get us some exit interview data. Was hoping we were gonna get that today.
I'll get it for you.
Reading Miss, now flipping over to the middle school. Reading through Miss Granado's report, I don't see anything in here relative to a fairly significant incident that ended, that was at the end of last school year. There have been significant parent rumblings end of last school year and all through the summer. I'd like to understand from a board perspective, was it a personnel failure or a policy failure? And my concern is more from a safety perspective of the students. So I'd like some information on that for the next meeting, please. We could, or we can do it now. Doesn't matter to me.
Well, I don't have that data sitting in front of me. I do have a report from that entire incident that was put together by security. So, I mean, I do have that. So we can certainly go over that. There were some circumstances involved with that situation that could have been handled better at the building level.
Okay.
So I can certainly update you on that.
Just from a policy or a personnel perspective, if it's a policy that we need to update and make better, great. I think there's, based on my today's reading of the handbook from the middle school, I think there's things in place that are able to handle it. But I do have a specific level of concern on what happened and would like to understand better.
Yeah, and if you want to give me a call so that you can give me that information so that I can make sure I provide the right thing to you.
Okay.
I will do that and I'll include it to all the board members.
Thank you. I'm good,
Under
Kathleen,
old
sorry.
business.
Did the generator get fixed? Sorry, old
I
business.
would like to table the student handbook. approval.
Sorry,
Oh, okay.
did the generator get fixed?
Like, is that done?
Old business.
What is
The
that?
generator, did it get fixed?
So no, not yet. We're still waiting for the radiator. It's been ordered. It's not here yet. And Heather was talking about backup batteries. That was why, because with the power going on and off because of the storms, Bryce and Heather were concerned about the servers. So she is in the process of buying some backup batteries for the servers, but it needs to be fixed as soon as we can. The new vendor that actually we found out, we got connected through the vendor that you recommended, did come in at $2,000 less. So we were happy about that. He was going to use the same people to restore the radiator as the original quote. So the person was familiar with it and Bill had put that out. And it's been removed, it's being repaired, and we're hoping to hear something very shortly about getting it put in place. We are a little bit antsy because we're the, emergency shelter for the town, so we are worried about that.
And school starts in 3 weeks.
Okay, and I'm gonna recommend that we table the student handbook approvals because, well, I know we need it for the beginning of school, but one, Ms. Granada's not here. Two, we usually get a sheet that gives us what changed in the handbooks.
It's highlighted in the handbook in a different color.
It was highlighted, okay. I
There
didn't
wasn't
know.
one.
Yeah,
No,
I didn't see it. on
Yeah,
the
we
website.
said something about that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Why didn't they just?
well,
Yeah.
Danielle was the one that was highlighted in color.
Was it the red? It was the red highlights, right?
Totally red.
I changed it with the red.
Yeah, it was the red
Yeah.
highlights.
Yeah,
Okay.
No.
there wasn't much in these handbooks that was changed. Especially at the high school, it was really the lockers and the cell phones that were changed.
One, I didn't print it out. so.
And the elementary, I think you had minimum things.
I didn't.
That was the only thing that was different, was the lunch prices.
All right, we want to approve them, we have to approve them. I don't have them.
So
I didn't
couple of
print mine.
items on it.
Do we need to make a motion to discuss the handbooks?
She'd like to, Jessica would like to make a motion to discuss.
I don't know. Do we need to make a motion to address? Yeah, I'll make the motion to open for discussion the student handbooks.
Second,
Second, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the handbooks?
yeah, so the calendar in the elementary school handbook didn't get the recent update from the calendar. That's on agenda item 10B.
Yeah.
Needs to be approved tonight first, then
Right.
it's changed, right?
Yes,
Just saying that that's one item, and then the second item, and it's overall throughout all of the handbooks, is I didn't see any references to the Board of Education policies anywhere in them. That the policy would supersede a handbook item, or the handbook item supersedes a policy. I just think we're putting ourselves in a. And anybody who's at the policy meeting the other night knows I'm a stickler for it. But I don't want to put us in a position. So either we decide that the policy supersedes the handbook, or the handbook supersedes the policy. Whichever one the board members feel.
Policy, the Board of Ed policy supersedes. the
Supersedes,
handbook.
yeah.
The handbooks are just procedural.
So I think we should state that.
I'll make a
In each
statement.
policy, yep.
I don't know if I just missed it, but I didn't see it in any of them.
In fact, we took out a lot of procedures from the policies because the handbooks are really just the guidelines for the procedures. And the policies are the top level.
And this goes to our policy meeting from last week. There are a couple of definitions that contradict themselves between the handbooks and the policy.
Okay.
So that's mainly why I'm bringing up.
That needs to be,
They should be
Rooted out
corrected,
also.
but they, if we have that blanket statement, at least
We're covered.
covers us.
right.
As,
so
as
we
we
can-
go through, we should be able to
Until we
update.
can go through and root it out, yeah. So there's work to be done.
Well, I can put a notation at the bottom of the pages with a little statement.
Okay. And I like your idea of the glossary with the anytime we have definition.
I mean, eventually we're gonna get there, but
Right.
I think for now, just a blanket statement that says the
Right.
policy supersedes the handbook covers us. Which means that the definition from the policy.
Well, because
Yeah.
a policy book is a
Well,
stick.
nobody's gonna read that per end to end.
No.
It's gonna be, I need to look up this policy. So,
Especially when we get into this whole cell phone policy and all that.
You never know.
yeah, somebody might,
What is a smart device?
Justin might.
Not
Okay.
me.
Any other discussion on the policies? Anybody?
The
chime
handbooks,
in
you
on
mean?
that? All right. Okay, then given that. I will put the motion to the floor with the following amendments to that.
Mhm. Put the,
To
that
the, to the
statement
handbooks.
and fix the
And the
calendar.
calendar being changed once we approve it. And a reference to the Board of Education's policy superseding. Being above above the handbooks. All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Any opposition, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, we should have reversed that then. A revised school calendar.
The reason this is before you, nothing basically changed except that on May 22nd. The high school will be holding their Portrait of a Graduate capstone panels. That is a graduation requirement. The reason we need a half day, obviously, is that the high school students need to leave so that those panels can take place. And secondly, we want district level teachers to participate district-wide because this is a K-12 initiative on those panels. In order to do so, they need to be freed up at that time. And so this came from a request from the Portrait of a Graduate Capstone Committee. And we put it on for your approval on May 22nd as a half day. It will count as a school day. It's just the students will have early dismissal.
Make the motion, Kathleen, to accept the change to the calendar.
second,
Okay. Yes. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Oh. Okay. Hearing no discussion, I'll put the motion forward for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Any abstentions? Motion passes. So that will be included in the handbooks. Yep. We move on to policy approvals. We've got quite a few to approve. You want to?
yeah, sure. So as said, we went through a total of 9 policies the other night. I believe we tabled a couple, so I'll go through them. I don't remember what order they were sent out to us, but I have the order which they were addressed in our policy meeting.
It's some attached to the package.
Right, right,
Yes.
but I have them as,
Oh,
I numbered
okay.
them during the
All right.
meeting, so,
Okay.
I didn't print out are they in the packet that you sent as well?
First.
First,
Not the second
Okay,
portion.
so, the establishment of the non-lapsing account needs to be changed per state requirements. And that allows the Board of Education to have control of that account without needing to go to the Board of Finance. And in addition to the changes made, it was recommended that we amend this to make sure that we avoid the previous version so that there's not a conflict.
And what we learned through doing, Danielle going back through all the minutes, is that we definitely drafted that policy, but it was never approved by the board. So it basically replaces a practice rather than, so now you're putting it into policy. And we found that by going through all the minutes since, was it 2018 when that actually was drafted?
And in this policy, it says not to exceed 3%. Correct, or is that
2%.
2%, I'm sorry.
So if this is state statute, why do we even need a policy?
Cape recommended it in the article that we had shared. They did recommend to put it in policy.
So that's what's presented to us. That's the main substantial changes that we don't need to ask Board of Finance.
And then it goes from 1%.
That's right. So in the
1%.
past, remember how we had the 1% set aside, and then we would have to go to the Board of Finance, and it was supposed to be used for either capital repairs or special education. And it had to be a Board of Finance vote. With the new legislation, it can be up to 2%. As long as it aligns with educational purposes, the Board of Education gets to make the decision on how those dollars are spent. And that's your surplus at the end of the year, if you were lucky enough to have surplus, which this will be the first year. We actually have had that in a long time, so.
Are we doing
Do
a
you
motion?
want, do you want a motion for each one?
I don't know. Do we want a
Kathleen?
motion for each one?
No, let's just
Okay.
approve them all together.
Okay,
We'll go through them.
well, okay,
I mean, we have to, let's
all right,
just continue.
all right. This table. This table. Attendance and excuses. The main change to our previous policy, school attendance teams are required to implement attendance instruction and support practices. And detailed in the chart attached in this policy. And we're supposed to review things to the juvenile review board for what that's worth. And there's another graphic at the back of that, graphics. So that's the main crux of it. It's just updating that policy. And truancy. The main updates, the same graphics as we had to the attendance one. And the district team must be established within district's chronic absenteeism rate is 10% or higher. Thompson Health and Wellness Committee will review chronic absenteeism data quarterly from each school. On page 4 of that, the Thompson Public School is a designated alliance district, and it was recommended that we amend that to put the expiration date of that alliance designation on there, 2027. So that's truancy. And ages of attendance. Changes. On page. See what are the changes? Is this a new policy for us?
It is.
I don't see anything
So
highlighted.
the only thing changed there was the kindergarten age.
Kindergarten age, okay.
Mhm.
And that we made a
We made
And
it.
an edit to change from the town to the district.
Correct.
So that, and the forms are there. Were you able to reformat that?
I did.
Okay, very good. We're working on the last one. All right, so that is the age of attendance policy. This one is the homeless students policy. There was a strikeout on item 6 on page 3. About immunizations, and we specifically mentioned Ashland Ellsworth as our liaison, and that was recommended as opposed to keeping that as just the liaison. So we need to keep an eye on that, and
Yes. And I think the board is, I put in my update how we ended the year with homeless students last year and what schools. And then I'll give you quarterly updates on those numbers. We're gonna need to make a spreadsheet here now.
yeah. Yep.
On what's due when.
Work permits. That was,
We had a practice.
oh, okay,
And we wanted to put policy because we did not have a policy.
right. And it was unanimously approved to send to the board as presented. And so the last one is the cellular phones and smart devices policy. And it's a short policy, and we motion to move it to the board, but we know that there's going to be changes based on his exalted excellency. So we're just going to leave it as this for now, and we're going to need to change it or amend it or append it or whatever. We hear from on high. So that's seven policies, and we recommend that all of them were sent unanimously to the board. There's a, excuse me, the next one?
Yeah, some in the packet earlier in the summer.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there was.
Yes, I was going off of that because I had the numbers. Sorry. Proper access, use, and dissemination procedures policy. That was from what, May?
Yeah, that
Oh.
was because of the fingerprinting and all of that.
Okay. All right, and that was also unanimously sent. I don't think there were any significant. Is that a new policy or an update?
That's an update on the policy.
The fingerprint.
We needed it to be reviewed by the Board of Ed, primarily for the practices of how we keep that data. And then, of course, we all had to attend professional development and webinar and take a test.
Yeah.
So
Everybody
that
passed?
we did. We did.
Congratulations. And school climate policy. Was updated.
And that's more in relation to by 2025, each school has to have a school climate committee. And to have an action plan based on input from the community, which we've gotten from that. Survey. Paranormal, what is it? Panorama. Yeah, sorry, I'm having a mental block. Panorama survey. We know that we're gonna look at that survey and pare it down, probably based on what you glean from the action plans, and then what questions will be important to the board and to the schools to know and get that data.
And there's supposed to be a board member on that committee, I believe.
On the climate committee, that can certainly be a board member on the climate committee. So anyone is interested in Kathleen. For each school, we're gonna go over those guidelines on Wednesday.
So there are 9 policies to.
Who wants to volunteer?
Oh, wait, volunteer for what?
Yeah, on the climate committee.
Oh.
Oh.
Thought she was asking for the motion.
I was asking, yeah, that's what I was hoping that was for.
One step at a time.
When's the dates of the times of the meeting?
I don't know.
We don't know that yet, so we are going over the policy on Wednesday at our retreat day. So each school will give me that information and then I can give it to you.
To
and
be
if it's
determined. We'll worry about that next meeting when we get.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so we have 9 policies, 9 policies.
Kathleen,
Kathleen,
We have a motion and a second. Justin has, yes.
oh, it was a motion to,
You were
Motion.
making the motion to
I was
approve it.
going to make the motion. We haven't made the motion yet, right?
Yes,
Yes, we have. You seconded it.
yes.
To open discussion or to adopt them.
You need a motion to start discussion.
Right.
That's what you guys did.
Right.
Mhm.
So you made a motion to accept the 9 policies already.
So now we're up to discussion portion. Started out
Well
with,
discussed.
all right,
So I
Any
presented,
discussion
does
on-
anybody want to discuss them?
any of these policies. Or I just want to vote on them.
I think we discussed them at length the other night.
mhm.
But yeah, not everybody. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Yeah, we were half of us were there, so.
Now they become law of the land now, so.
Let's go.
Okay, are we all ready to go to the floor for a vote? Okay. Hearing no discussion, I will put these policies, the motion to the floor for a vote. All in favor of adopting these 9 policies, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Policies adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, lunch debt approvals. This would be conditionary approval because you're still working on
It could be less than 27. It could be less than
it.
27.
Yeah, it could be less than 27.
I'd like to motion that we approve payment of settling of the lunch debt, maxing out at what we have today,
So why don't we say less than 2,800?
less than $2,800.
Okay,
Second,
I have a second, okay. Any discussion on that? You know, we always do our best to collect them and
Everybody deserves to have a lunch. I mean,
just, we
But
have a
it's-
few
it's-
deadbeat parents, that's all. It's to be found everywhere, so. Okay. Any other discussion on this matter? Yes,
Where's the 2,800 coming out from?
Pardon me?
Like, where in the budget will the 2,800 be coming from?
Surplus.
Surplus, okay.
No, the lunch prices are set by the state. So
The range is set by the state.
because obviously it doesn't cost that much to produce it. So do we have to pay that amount or some portion of that? I don't want to split hairs, but it's not, it doesn't cost $3.30 for a meal or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Well,
But that's that price so for the reimbursement?
correct.
So you
correct.
probably gotta pay the whole thing.
Yeah, and believe me, I didn't like the idea since parents have to pay this year of raising the lunch prices, but that was the mandate and we only went up 10 cents because it takes us to the lower end of that range.
No, I understand all that. I just didn't
I
know if we were on the hook for the entire amount when it didn't cost that amount to produce it.
I don't have Lisa here to ask her, and I guess it depends on the menu, on what the price per meal is and what her reimbursement rate is on those meals. I know it's higher in breakfast, that's why she figures she can offer the free breakfast.
For future reference, is this a number we can capture monthly, quarterly? To know
Number
how
of
far,
meals,
well, the debt, to know how far we're,
sure,
Unpaid
put
lunch
that
fare.
with my little spreadsheet here.
I, just so that we're not getting to August of next year and finding out it's $14,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
$2,700.
Oh, yeah.
Is it worth doing like announcements at concerts and stuff?
Well,
You
Bill-
know, like, I
Bill,
don't know,
you could
like,
make
you know,
that-
just or the one calls or what, you know, till the people
Well,
work
yeah.
out.
Payment plan, like,
Yeah,
I
or
don't know,
something.
like, kind of
Yeah,
thing,
just-
you know, I don't know.
Lisa does that individually and calls the parents and arranges a payment plan. That's how she's gotten some of them paid up. I don't know, I'll take a look at the amounts per family to see, you know, maybe there are some families I can write a letter to. And tell them that they need to address that. I know we've had conversation about holding back on certain activities at the end of the school year, but the lunch debt isn't part of that, and we
It
we
shouldn't
can't
be.
make it part of
It
that.
shouldn't be, it's not the
But-
kid's fault.
No. and
Correct.
That's what bothered us about having with the sun,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Correct,
sandwich.
but having said that, somebody's gotta take responsibility.
Yep.
The parents need to take responsibility. You know, if the child is taking the money and spending it on candy and, because they know they're gonna get a free
That's not
lunch.
how they pay. They
Huh?
pay, don't they pay? They don't give the
I-
kid lunch money.
I have,
Oh,
no-
they
I have
do.
no
They
idea.
do.
do, yes, they do,
So,
there's cash,
but,
yes.
and short of publishing their names in the Villager and saying, you owe us this money, I don't know, I wouldn't know how to get the cash.
Right.
But there's gotta be some,
Yeah.
some consequence.
Yes.
And if that means you don't go to the field trip or something, they gotta do something. It just
Yep.
can't be, oh, we'll give you a free lunch, and yeah, you can do everything, you know, with your classmates. Somebody's gotta take responsibility.
I agree.
In with like.
If
you
it's
know,
the case,
playbook
if it's a
fees or-
case of the kid who's spending your money on other things.
You know,
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, you do know if the parents said, hey, I gave him the money to give to you.
Well, that's a
And let
discussion
parents-
parents need to have with their kid.
So I think by us knowing the number regularly, if we see it becoming a, I don't know that there's much we can do at this point with the 2,700 starting under
Yeah,
the bridge.
nothing.
But as we move forward,
Mhm.
I think if we see habitual offenders, we need to take that, especially with what that number could be this year with us charging for meals in the elementary school. We need to take that head on.
So when the number was up high, the board explored, collection agencies for those monies. It seemed like the cost of that
Yeah.
was exceeding what the lunch balance
Right.
was. And so we kind of tabled it at that time, and then COVID hit, and we didn't have to worry about it for 4 years, and now we're back to probably having to worry about it, because our budget is tight and really absorbing, and you're right, Justin, it could be $14,000 by the end of the school year, how do we know? So we can certainly do that, I'll get that data from Lisa. Plus, there are probably some people on that list that maybe they need a stern letter from the superintendent's office saying that you have this balance, and if there's extenuating circumstances, please contact me, and talk about it that way.
Well, and there are philanthropic organizations in town that offer free meals, free food, free this, free that. I don't understand if these, and this is an assumption on my part, if these individuals are getting those free meals but didn't fill out the paperwork for us, or are they just, you know,
So that's part of
Okay,
the, that's part of the conversation Lisa has when and she's tracking it, when she starts to notice a buildup, she always sends the application home and tells the parent to fill it out. Now, whether or not they follow through on that is another story, but she does try to qualify them, and she's constantly on the state website to see who has been direct certified. If a student becomes direct certified, she wipes the balance off because they have already vetted through the state process. So there's a lot of moving pieces with that, but I do know she spends a great deal of time, and she was very happy when it was free lunch for all, because
Yeah.
then she didn't have to spend countless hours tracking down unpaid lunches.
I just don't see the problem getting any better.
No, No, and if it's one thing if they qualify, but they have to apply, or if they're just not paying, which is just putting a burden on everybody else, especially and including the cafeteria director.
Yeah.
It's, you know, as much as we're paying the $2,800, the time is that she's spending is worth far
Oh,
more than that.
It's
And that's a
countless.
resource that's coming out of town. That's something else she
What
could
does
be
the
doing.
library do when people don't pay? Or don't return a book, or the book goes damaged? I wonder what they do. Cause I'm sure they're dealing with
The
similar
public
thing.
library?
Yeah,
They
Basically, you get a bill.
right, that's what I'm saying.
And then you can't take out any other books.
Right.
But in this case, we can't say, okay, now you can't have a lunch.
Right,
That's the
Yeah.
difference.
I'd be curious, and at this point, it's just spitballing, but I'd be curious to find out if these same lunch offenders are the same ones who have debts with tech services, are the same ones who have other debts within the system.
Yeah.
That'd be-
I saw some correlation when I did that analysis earlier from the Chromebook and library.
Mhm.
There was a correlation between that. So
And is that a point where, is it
It's gotta be something.
DCF or something like that that needs to get involved, because maybe there's a social service that can help them out. Not the social service locally of us paying the $2,800 fee. And absorbing the Chromebook and absorbing the library books.
yeah, that wouldn't be necessarily under their umbrella of neglect.
Can we
I doubt
hold
that would be picked up.
electronics until they've paid the school their bills? You know, like you can't receive your child's Chromebook until you've taken care of XYZ or something like that. Yeah.
So then that.
I don't know if I'm
full
okay-
Access to the curriculum,
Ah.
which,
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm okay with punishing the student because the parent's not paying the bill.
yeah, yeah.
Like a fourth grader is not gonna go out and get a job. To
No,
pay-
but
Mine would.
I mean.
Well.
Yeah, no, it comes down to the parent, and there is the case of the student not. You know, getting the $10 for the week and not buying their lunch.
Yeah.
And that, I wonder what percentage that would be. We don't know. We're not
Well, we
gonna
can
know.
tell who's electronically using
Yeah.
a swipe card versus who's cash. yeah.
Right, so, but yeah, if there's that, somebody's got, it shouldn't be the taxpayer, it shouldn't be the town, the community, the district, it's funding. So it's 27 plus, plus, you know, it's $5, $6, $7,000 this year. It's a bigger problem than it sounds, it's a bigger problem than the 27.
Right, the 27 is not right, but if it's
But if it's Chromebooks
15,
and library.
20,000.
It's a societal and responsibility issue.
Right, or if it's multiple different departments of the school that they owe in, you know, it's more than $2,800.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's, yeah.
Those kind of things, we learned last year. And I've always known they have to kind of be dealt with on an individual basis. If a parent will engage with you at all
Right.
about that. Most parents that I find, if they are in a financial distress, many of them are very proud, but at the end of the day, they will, let someone know, either at the building level or my level when they get a letter. And we work something out with the family because there's an extenuating circumstance. But I know from prior to COVID, we had chronic offenders. So,
We had some very well-to-do families in
Right.
this town that owed a lot of money. Too. No,
True.
circumstances could change, but. You know,
Right.
on the surface, it certainly looks. You know, when you're driving that expensive car, you can afford the $10 or whatever.
Right. Right, yeah, it's a responsibility issue and we can't fix this from this table.
Maybe a bill collector is what we.
Maybe.
we looked into it. I don't know what.
We'll send that new guidance counselor around, that 6'5" guy.
Yeah. Take out some easy.
Okay,
Brings a whole new.
all right, but we didn't vote on this, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, there's two things.
So we have a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. We didn't vote on this, so I'll put the motion to approve the lunch debt up to $2,800 to the floor for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Many abstention,
I'm gonna abstain, Kathleen.
pardon me?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. All right, the motion passes with one abstention. Okay, move on to meal program adjustment approvals.
Make the motion, Kathleen, to adjust the meal costs per Lisa's suggestion.
Okay, second. In a second, Kristen, seconds. Okay, any discussion on this? We're actually at the state floor, correct?
Right,
Federal or state?
state,
State.
Stay.
so we don't really have a
No.
choice. No.
But they'll give it back to us, so. They're good like that.
All right. So we could charge more if we wanted to?
Yeah, a 50-cent range,
Okay.
yeah.
Won't be able to collect it though.
Yeah.
Sounds good, but
Yeah.
we could have a sliding scale.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay, any discussion on this? Okay, hearing no discussion. I will put the motion to the floor to approve the recommended adjustments to the elementary and to the middle and the high school lunch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Any abstentions? No, the motion passes unanimously. Then we have a letter from CABE thanking us for re-upping our membership. Okay. Someplace. Just says. Thank you for the Township Board of Education's decision to continue its CAPE membership. Our organization's viability and success in support of its individual members is especially important as we address challenges facing public education. CAPE's primary mission is to support its individual member boards. We strive to offer timely and meaningful workshops and seminars, access to information and personalized guidance on current issues at the local, state, and federal level, and to make offerings tailored to facilitate district operations. We urge you, your fellow board members, and your superintendent to take full advantage of our services. We find that those boards that are most active with us get the most value from their membership. CABE is uniquely a school boards organization. As we are led to by volunteers, a warm welcome is extended to those who wish to serve CABE in whatever capacity and level they find comfortable. Participation is always welcome in governance and our advocacy efforts both in Hartford and with Congress in Washington. Please know that if you have questions regarding your service as a board member, the answer is a phone call or an email away from one of your CABE staff members. Again, thank you for your commitment. The board and staff stand ready to serve you. Sincerely, Leonard Lockhart, President. And we certainly do get a lot out of our membership.
I have two questions regarding CABE. One, do either of you know if any towns or districts are not members?
We used to not be a member.
Okay.
And
Ballpark.
I don't know off the top
I
of
was-
my
Yeah, I
head.
was curious.
I haven't come across any, but I think at one point, because of budget, we
Because
weren't.
of budget, we
Yeah.
weren't, then we
Yeah.
came back as like an associate member or something.
And my second question is approximately how much does it cost us for a membership?
It's like 4,800, 5,000.
Really?
somewhere around
Okay,
there.
we get a lot out of it.
Especially the policy.
Policies alone, yeah, we get a lot out of it. It's worth
That was gonna be
twice
my
the much.
question.
Yeah, and you should all be getting the CABE newsletter, and if there's
I attend many
ever a
of the,
seminar that you want to attend,
webinars.
just let Danielle know, and
The legislative breakfasts are
Yeah,
sponsored by
It's a
Kate. There's a lot.
yep.
There's a conference in November that board members can attend. I haven't because it's always at a funky time.
Yeah.
I think it's earlier in the month this year, early in September. November.
We won't have any new board members this year. Next year, we always make the new board members go, but we won't have any this year, thank the Lord. It's not an election.
I went.
Okay, any citizens' comments?
We left.
Yes,
So I just have a few, so first, welcome to the town. Can't wait to see all the good stuff for this new year. I think there was a couple of points made tonight, that raised some concerns on the communication side. There's been a lot of comments this summer, in parents in the middle school and in the elementary school on some of the issues and concerns that occurred towards the latter part of the year. We get a lot of communications in emails about all these great fun things that are going on, but there's no real communication on how we're handling certain issues, problems, and then you come to these meetings, it's also not here. There's no metrics, there's no true communication. There was a lot at the end of the year left for parents to spend the entire summer discussing. And it's not a good reflection on the hard work that the board has done, what Mrs. Smith has done, and what the town has done. And a lot of the comments now are, I'll say, getting worse, because we just passed a huge budget, and the comments are like, we put our money where we were asked to put it. We want the respect back for communications on the good and the bad. We need to truly understand, as the parents who are sending our kids here, on whether or not the rumors and the BS that we're hearing is valid and accurate. Like, we don't see in any of the reports on how many times police are being called to the schools. When you come here and ask the question, it almost seems like it's being swept under the rug. I'm not one of those parents who doesn't come and ask the questions. There's a lot of parents who don't want to anymore come and ask the questions because our kids are being targeted. Oh, you're that mom's kid, right? Or you're that parent's kid. And it's getting worse and worse. So I understand the co-oping, and as a parent who's new to the sports and has a child who really wants to get involved, I didn't understand that that meant you can't compete in states. The parents who have the mindset that their kids are going to be that next good baseball player have spent all summer trying to recruit our children to leave this school's sports program, because the coaches are spending a lot of their time disciplining kids or trying to rally the 55 kids, right, at track, and not spending the time teaching my kid how to pace. I've spent money on getting someone to coach my kid because that's what he's looking for, and not because we don't have a coach in cross country and track, but the coach isn't given the opportunity to coach because we have either a good amount of kids or we didn't divide the boys and the girls. Like, there are decisions I understand that we make, and that, you know, the reasons you're making them, that's not getting communicated clearly to us parents. We're just getting the backlash from what we see with our kids and what we hear. So, I get nervous now as we transition into the smaller children paying for lunches. So I guess part of it is a question. I understand that it can be a card that's swiped or it's cash. My first grader, second grader, whatever grade she's going to, I don't even know anymore, many of them. She has no concept, right? She doesn't know what $3 is. She doesn't understand what that means. She's already targeted by her peers as one of the rich kids. If she now has to go to school and carry money every day to buy a lunch, what are we doing to combat that? Right? Because right now, all of the kids are getting lunches. No one knows that you're not eligible, but you've now created that dynamic in the elementary school. And I want to know, we talk about we are a district, right? We are an alliance district, but there are a chunk of kids who are borderline. They don't and aren't able to get reduced meals or free meals. They are now starting to be targeted as one of those kids. And now we're opening that up, and I haven't heard anything on how those kids are going to be protected from that conversation. And a lot of those kids are the parents that sit around the table. They're the parents that are showing up to help. If we lose that group of parents, I don't know what we have left in our town to help support all of the volunteering, all of the fundraising, and all of those activities. So I'm a little nervous because I didn't hear anything. And I know, Mr. Prentice, that it's new and it's gonna be different. But I've seen what my kids have already gone through, and I don't feel or have a lot of confidence yet that that's not going to be a problem in the elementary school. And I just, I know some of you guys brought it up, but is there a way potentially, like, clear metrics every month that we're getting from each of the schools to be able to understand the good and the bad that's happening? Or give me a website, I'll go read it myself. If we're afraid of names, people, policy violations, you just approved 9 policies. Half the parents probably don't even know those exist, but I want to know how many of those policies are being violated every month. Because if they're being violated, there's reasons and things going on that are what our kids are coming home, and we're trying to avoid rumors and problems, but they keep happening, but no one talks about it. We only talk the good, and I appreciate that, because there is a lot of good. There's a lot of change that's happened, but I think there's got to be a little bit more transparency on the negative side. But, sorry, not trying to be Debbie Downer, but like, looking forward to a new year, a lot of changes. There's a lot of people concerned just based on how much our budgets went up in our taxes, and they want to see that the school is going to use that to make the improvements we've been talking about. So I don't know how we get that as parents to understand that, but that's what I'd be looking for, to understand from this board that we are utilizing it for what we said. And the reason we all voted to approve it, are we seeing those benefits? Thanks.
Don't know. Do we have it's a good point. I mean, we need to work on, agree, we need transparency, we need the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we need to work on that, as Justin has brought before us. We need to work on that. I, having no kids, no grandkids in this school, I don't hear those rumors. You hear them. Justin hears them. You hear them. You hear some of them, but
Less so in the high school,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
gonna say, I don't-
honestly,
yeah,
less so.
yeah, so we need feedback to come to us so that we can respond. That's all I can say right now, but
I also worry about the catch-22 is if we're presenting, because we're trying. I'm not saying we're trying to hide reality, because we all know the reality. You can see, you just put the news on and schools are struggling all over the place, whether it's behavioral stuff, financial stuff. But it's like, if we put out every negative situation or clump it all together in a report, that's exactly the same stuff that comes back at us at budget season, and then it doesn't help us also. So it's kind of like we have to figure out the middle road where we're, saying, a situation happened and security took care of it, or we found, a hole in something that we're working on. We recognize a situation, we're working on it. But I think we have to really be mindful as to how we're presenting information, because if it comes out in ways that isn't represented in the way that we wanted it to be represented, it comes back to us. It will come back to us at budget season, because we're gonna get the vice versa. So you got that much money, but you can't keep these kids in control. You can't keep their parents in control. Well, school system can only do so much. Board of Education can only do so much, and we're trying to help as in every dynamic, whether it's figuring out ways for families with lunches and this and that, and in getting these kids to school, getting them off their cell phones and, providing all the services they need. There's just so many avenues that we're trying to do everything in. And people just have to understand we're, as everybody else is doing the best, we're trying to do our best too, but I just feel like we have to be really careful as to how we're presenting these reports, because it will come back in a way that we're then, counteracting and saying, well, no, this really didn't happen. It happened this way,
You gotta
Can I
keep
just
in
say-
mind also that the Board of Education sets policy. It is not our purpose to do the management of the school. We set the policy. It is up to the principals, the building managers, and the superintendent. They manage the school. We set a policy, which we did tonight. They follow those policies. I mean, I can't tell Mr. Prentice what he is supposed to do. I've set a policy on, well, Mr. Mellon especially, we set a policy on cell phones. All right, that policy needs to be followed. It is Superintendent Smith's job to make sure the policy is being followed. If there's a disconnect, then it needs to come to us. And I'm sure we're gonna hear about it. Yes, Heather.
I just have one comment to make. Your points were well taken. Rest assured, we all heard it. Oftentimes we can't necessarily respond because it's not Q&A, it's comments, but we did hear your points. And one other thing, which is great about our board, is that more than half of the board members have students representing all three schools. So we have a stake in the game too. So we feel your pain. We do understand and we'll digest and hopefully, you'll see some satisfaction in moving forward.
Well said, Heather. Well said. Okay, any other comments?
I did get a text from Mr. Brissett saying it was Mr. Young's birthday, so happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay,
To adjourn.
Second.
okay.